so he really got hurt
Holy shit.
doing that. And I don't know how much of the film they had actually shot before that, but I know that there's a couple of scenes where he's kind of leaning back in the chair, kind of hiding the arm, or his arm is kind of purplish and bruised, like his hand. At one point, he's like on the phone, and if you look really closely at his hand,
oh yeah, that's in the beginning.
It's like it's kind of purplish and
when his wife calls him and she invites Somerset to dinner.
I think it's that scene.
That's they try to do some color correction for that scene to change it.
Oh right.
But they couldn't. Then it was like they were changing the wall color and stuff in the back, so they were kind of straight out of luck with that. But if you pay attention, you can see there's some like discoloration in his arm, like you were saying.
That's cool. Yeah.
Next up, Guillermo del Toro turned down directing this piece because he felt a disconnection with the dark nature of the film, which I thought was really fucking interesting because the guy does like really like I feel like this would be in his ballpark.
But he tends to do like more fantasy based.
That's what I would think.
True.
You know, more films. And what had he done before this? Because this is probably going into production 94 sometime.
Mimic.
No, Mimic was 97.
Oh, okay.
What year was Kronos? I know Kronos was
around that time.
Was it around that time?
90.
This probably would have been his second or third movie then.
I thought Kronos was 92, but I could be wrong.
And so if it's 92, then that would probably would have been the only thing he had done before they offered him this.
A roach wrangler was used for that first kill set.
Yeah.
They had to cover all the cracks in that room with Vaseline in order to keep the bugs from slipping out. So that was all pre-planned. Yeah. I think I had heard that the spaghetti sauce and all the stuff that's all thrown around the room had really been sitting there. Like the sauce had rotted because it had been sitting there for months. So they actually, going into that scene, there was a real aroma and shitty kind of smell that probably put them in
that mood.
Yeah, for that scene.
Yeah.
It was like a real crime scene, pretty much. I thought that was really interesting. So the film runs at 127 minutes. The film is obviously called Seven, and the 35mm prints were made up of 7 reels.
It's about 20 minutes a reel.
The body count of the entire film is 7. The Laserdisc... well, when Laserdiscs were a thing...
Who knows what Laserdiscs were?
I do.
Well, I mean... I'm asking your audience.
Oh. Well, I don't know.
Do you know what Laserdiscs are, Susie?
Whatever.
She doesn't.
You don't? They're
I've seen them.
They were like precursors to DVDs.
Huge.
Yeah.
But they're like vinyl record size, and I think you had to flip them.
Yeah, to watch the whole...
Yeah, to watch the entire movie, you had to flip them.
Which is dumb.
Do you know anyone that ever had a Laserdisc?
Mm-hmm.
I in my elementary, a few of my elementary classes had them, and we had watched a few movies that way. But it was just like, what a fucking weird concept. I don't get how that's
one person that ever had a Laserdisc.
Because they're fucking expensive.
They're expensive as fuck, and they weren't around very long.
No, I remember going to Blockbuster and seeing the section for them, holding some movies on. Like I think I can remember Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, seeing that big fucking Laserdisc for sale.
I think at the record swap one time we saw Reservoir Dogs and we thought it was the vinyl soundtrack. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's get
and
this
it's
for
just the
Wesley.
Laserdisc.
I thought it was Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction,
Yeah.
And the lady came over and she's like, oh, you know that's a Laserdisc, right? I'm like, what the fuck is this doing with the vinyl? Second of all, who's going to buy this? Who has a Laserdisc player these days?
Well, to be honest, I think they're cool because sometimes they have alternate artwork. So from that standpoint, it'd be cool to frame. Like my buddy, when I used to work at Thrift Trader, he came across a Starship Troopers Laserdisc that was from like Japan. So it had all the
cool.
the title credits and everything in Japanese and okay, so Laserdiscs. Going back to what I was talking about, when Seven came out on home video, the suggested retail price for Seven on Laserdisc was $49.99 in the U.S., which is insane.
It's crazy. So much.
It's so expensive.
For one movie.
$50.
Making Blu-ray look cheap.
Yeah.
I think that wraps up my
Swan facts?
my Swan facts. But if you got anything you want to contribute, Chris, you seem like you know a whole lot about this film.
I do love this film. I think you hit on a lot of them. I mean, we kind of talked about Alien 3 and the shitty experience that Fincher had making that film and why he kind of was not into making movies and then had the chance to do this. And I think this really put him on the map. It really established him as not only a filmmaker, but established his look and his aesthetic. I just want to say, like, this is probably, I think, like a top 3 Morgan Freeman performance, because I think he's so good in the movie.
What's your other two? Shawshank?
Shawshank for sure, and I think either Unforgiven or Glory I would put in those top 3.
Yeah, Glory's rad.
Yeah, but he's more of a supporting character in both Unforgiven and Glory. So I would say Shawshank is definitely his best beyond 7.
Because he hasn't done anything quite like this, right?
No, and actually, I think that was something I read where either Fincher or New Line approached him to be that character of Somerset, and they were pretty much sure that he was going to turn it down because it would be like, oh, this is below Morgan Freeman's stature. You know, he wouldn't do something like this, but apparently he was very eager and signed on and was the first person to say yes to the movie. Honestly, I couldn't see anyone else in that role. I know that they wanted, I think, William Hurt at one point to play Somerset, but I couldn't see anyone but Morgan Freeman playing it.
What else you got?
Dude, I think that's it. I just also want to point out that, like, the production design is incredible in the film, and
His bedroom.
John Doe's bedroom.
Yes.
Yeah, and he has the little boxes on the wall, and each one has mementos from each murder in it. And I think that's how they find the receipt for the strap-on. It's in one of those boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But just the production design in it I think is incredible. And apparently it was set up that way to kind of mirror, like, the moral decay of the city, you know, because everything's kind of run down, and it looks like New York. I know it's Los Angeles, but they really fight to make it look like New York, and I think that's where Andrew Kevin Walker got inspired to write the screenplay, was living in New York at the time. And in that case, it's almost like Taxi Driver, where, like, Paul Schrader's Taxi Driver script, where it's really just about how shitty New York is and how grimy and disgusting New York is, and that's like the feel that 7 has. Is
We didn't talk about John Doe's speech in the back of the squad car.
That's probably my second favorite scene in the movie, because that dialogue that he has with Mills and Somerset in the car is fantastic.
It sets you up for why this guy did what he did.
Yeah.
And his moral standing on, you know, how he thinks that it was justified. Because Mills said, you know, you killed innocent people. And he goes into exactly why he thought each victim was not innocent at all.
Nobody's innocent, basically.
And, I'd have to say, that's some of the best dialogue in the movie. And I feel like, it brings everything to a really tight close, even before you get to, you know, what happens to the wife. I also have a 5-minute interview with Fincher. Basically, it's like him talking about his take on film, or how he views the world of film. Do you guys want to check it out?
Yeah.
I want want you to hit me as hard as you can. Why? How much can you know about yourself? You've never been in a fight.
Wait, let me start earlier. When you set out to make a movie, it doesn't happen exactly the way you have it in your head. There is this exploration, there is this evolution, there's this unfolding or revealing of the material.
These things you see.
You have to wear blinders sometimes. Most times.
You have control over everything that somebody sees and hears for 2 hours. Every single thing. And the audience knows that you can show them anything. I mean, you know that you've got computers and you can make Tyrannosaurus Rex eat a car. So they know you can do anything. So the question is, what don't you do? Not what do you do?
She's one of the best investigators I had.
But
She's different.
in what way?
In every way.
Something wrong with the report?
Anything you chose not to disclose?
He's clean, in my opinion. He's honest.
Her credibility isn't dead yet.
Mine is.
He's had a long-standing sexual relationship with his co-editor of the magazine. Sometimes he pleasures her. Not often enough, in my opinion.
My life has been kind of tailored, and I've kind of been built for middle age. You know, I spent most of my teens working, 6-day weeks and 14-hour days at, either Industrial Light Magic or making television commercials, and, kind of struggling through my 20s to, be able to be taken seriously. I remember when the first music video I ever made, and I made it in San Francisco, and I made it with the local technicians that I knew, that I'd sort of come up with, and guys you sort of call your friends and you get everything together. And it was a pretty big budget, and I remember turning to the first assistant cameraman and saying, I want to be like right about here, and I want to be like on a 24 millimeter, and I want to track across. And he looked at me, and he was about 40, and he looked at me and he said, really? And I remember just going, I just want to be on a 24, right? Like, I don't want to negotiate with you. I want to, like, I went out and got $150,000 to make a video, and I'm hiring you, and now you're, and so I spent a good, 10 or 15 years trying to kind of get past that point. I wanted to be able to be a point where I could go, here's what I want, and it's such an odd thing because you read the script and you get excited about all the ideas in it, and then it's just a process of kind of subdividing and dismantling and trying this and trying that and putting it all back together, and then you put music on it and it's sort of new, and you finish all the effect shots and you put the titles on it, and then something really odd happens when you put 700 people in a room and you play it for them. It brings on it's a whole other take on it. Actors and directors have diametrically opposed views to the same piece of material. My job is to create for you an environment where you are on the inside looking out. You never have to be on the outside looking in. That's my job. I have to go both ways. I have to be able to go, the reason he's responding to this way is because of X, because he's looking at it going, he doesn't know. It's like right now I'm making this thriller, and I think I keep telling everybody is, nobody in this movie knows they're in a thriller. So when you open a door and you walk in, you never walk in like, you walk in the door like, where did I put my keys? And then you find the body, right? So my job is to look at it from the outside.
On the 4th of July. I want you to print this cipher on the front page of your paper.
He wants his code in the afternoon edition.
Ray Smith, don't you have my cartoon to finish?
The Zodiac Killer has come to San Francisco.
It's there. Everybody thinks, it's all about getting the stuff there, but getting the stuff there is just that's the starting gate,
All right, so that was the director's brief with David Fincher. Hope you guys enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's awesome. They had clips from
There's Dragon Tattoo, Seven,
Zodiac,
Fight Club.
yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about before we close out?
Yeah, I just want to address the elephant in the room, and that's Kevin Spacey's in this movie.
Yes.
So knowing what has just recently come out against him, does it change the movie for you?
Oh, that's very interesting. So the reason why I thought it would be appropriate